I'll take 10. I get 5. All right, good afternoon.
5 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah. Tēnā koutou katoa. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm here in support of my personal submission on the bill. The bill, it's not perfect, but it's a huge improvement over has-no because it's going to enable us to use gene technologies safely for the benefit of New Zealand. My name is Revel Drummond. I'm of Clan McGregor. My 500 great-grandfather arrived in the country on the Sir Alec McMahon. We settled in Motueka. I was born in Christchurch and I live in Auckland, Tamaki Makaurau. I am a proud Kiwi and I want to make this country the best. I have trained and worked for 30 years as a molecular biologist because I believe that is the way we can move forward. We have to be better at growing food. We have to do it more environmentally friendly, more productive. I would like to discuss 3 points today. 1, I love DNA, I love genes, and I love genomes. But genomes are a hot mess of complicated variation. It's beautiful, but it's so messy. In the context of the lab, people get really scared about that complexity, but not so in nature. This apple is a Fuji apple. No, this apple is a Royal apple, but it's a sport. It's a mutant. I have no idea about the genetic variation that's caused this Royal to look like this. Hamish has bravely eaten an apple already today in this room.
Royal Gala.
It was a Royal Gala. Be careful. Between Fuji apples and their mutants, it's been shown to have 100,000 DNA changes. Nobody's ever looked at them until just a couple of weeks ago. Nobody's ever been asked to prove they were safe. But if I make one change, one single base pair change to this apple, I have to prove it's safe. And every other change that happens. The has-no act makes that so hard, so difficult. Nobody's ever tried it in New Zealand. 2, on plant transformation. I have heard some rather alarmist opinions on plant transformation, how easy it is. I'm literally doing plant transformation right now. I started in December. In about 2 weeks, I might get a plant in the glasshouse, if I'm lucky. Actually going pretty well. Oh, I will get a plant in the glasshouse. It's slow, it's complex. I can't do it in my garage. I couldn't do it in a field. And no matter what people have imagined, plant transformation sets to look to remain difficult, slow, and lab bound for some time yet. 3rd point. Why do I keep doing this when it's so hard to have the impact that I clearly want to have? Because the power of gene tech to make positive changes for agriculture is huge. We have already used gene tech to make huge changes to agriculture. No in low-till farming. No in low pesticide use. GM cotton in Australia uses 99% less pesticides than the traditional versions. 99%. We've reduced food waste, non-browning apples and bananas. We saved the papaya industry in Hawaii completely from a virus. Healthier foods are now available. Nutrient-dense brassica greens, vitamin A-rich golden rice, antioxidant-rich tomatoes, pineapples, and a heart-healthy soybean oil. All commercialised, if not for Greenpeace in a couple of cases they are. Can we make similar products for all New Zealand? No, we can't, because the rules are stopping us. We are giving up on those benefits. And the problem, this bill only sets out a framework, and it can still get tied in knots, and we could still go nowhere. So to finish up, regulator and a framework, great idea. Let's get on with it. Some of the details could use a little work, and the regulations that come next are super important. They have to be scientific, they have to be rational, and they have to be pragmatic. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. We are at time.
Ooh, anybody want an apple? Yep. Brave.
Yeah, I was hoping he was going to throw it at him. But it's a bit of a red herring as Professor Jack said when he came on before, it's a bit of a red herring to go, oh, you don't like this technology, you're anti-science. The problem is not the tech, the problem is the unwanted spread and the corporate interests attached to the GMO.
Yeah, it's really sad because I've met quite a few of these guys and I don't want to this guy's exciting, he's vibrant, and he's isolated into a part which is he's doing a job. So he's like a guy building a house and he's putting the frames up. He's making the frames all wrong, and the guy that comes to put the windows in can't fit them. But it doesn't matter. He's still having a good time. He's not connected to.
I had to throw in a computer joke.
But he's not connected to all the things. He's not, he's not working from a position like Jack, where you're looking at the unintended consequences. So when they managed to with the talons and they did the horns on cattle. That was huge, man. That was awesome. That'd be so good because it's really awful cutting horns off cattle, right? But to have a sequence that was unintended of antibiotic resistance that was in that editing process that meant the cattle all had to be culled because they possessed that and it could spread and, it was sort of could even spread to humans. That takes all of the luster out of that thing. I remember going to the Blue Greens conference and I didn't realize it was $300 to go in, and I didn't even have $300 in my account, and there was 2 of us, and they let us in for $50. So it's 20, and I said, oh, that's cool, $25 each. And she said, no, 100. And I said, oh, $25 each, and she let us in. We got in there, and there was one of these guys there, and he said he could just about do anything with GE, and I think he could. But I think the thing is that's where we've got to sort of like find the place for genetic engineering. Maybe it's not causatory, maybe it's reactionary. And then, that's the thing. It's like, do these tools have use? Absolutely they do. They can show us the universe of what's in the genome, what's in the DNA. It's what we can use to understand things to the highest definition. And that's what they're risking here. And it still means this guy has a job, but it's just much different. It's not causatory, it's reactionary. And it's also, he will be like Jack. Like, Jack's such a wonderful teacher. You know, like every moment with Jack is a teaching moment. And I think that this guy, when you look at him, he's and how he presented in the thing, he's frustrated because he's got all these people saying it's Greenpeace that are holding you back, it's hippie farmers like me that are holding you back, and all that sort of stuff. And they haven't been held back. They've been dolloped huge amounts of money and had open slather to do anything they bloody want. So, and they have got zero products that are ready to be commercialized for it, and they need to be honest about that.
Yeah. Elvira, can we try the sound?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful!
Go down.
Really your brains.
Fantastic. Yeah, just nice to meet you all. And just picking up on what you've been saying, Michael, I kind of want to, I don't know if other people have said this, I had the channel on, but I was sort of in and out of the house, and I was just kind of hearing bits and pieces of what was going on. I think there has been no emphasis on, first of all, they took away all the biodiversity by getting rid of all the old varieties, the heirloom varieties, the pest-resistant varieties, the disease-resistant varieties, you know, and they could have easily had really good hybrids or just grown those old varieties on optimal soils that are rich in life and rich in organic matter. And they keep, what I found when I was working for Crop and Food is that they keep creating problems. Oh dear, we've got a problem. We need to engineer a solution. And the problem isn't actually a problem if you are a good problem solver in the first instance. You know, if you grow crops on rich, healthy soils, rich in minerals and organic matter and microbes and worms, you will grow healthy plants. I mean, you see that. I see that in my own veggie garden. I'm growing cauliflowers, and then some of them do really well, and some of them are pathetic. And I know it's just a little wee regional variation in the quality of the soil. And it has nothing to do with the genetics. This genetics thing is overrated. You know, genetics is good, it's great, and it certainly has its place, don't get me wrong. But the thing to say that it's all down to genetics and nothing else, you know, and we can't possibly move forward if we don't keep advancing our genetics. Well, no, nature is really good at optimizing things and really good at functioning genetically optimally. And there's not really a reason to do this at all. It's just that we can do it, and there's money to be made out of intellectual property, there's money to be made out of patents, and there's money to be made out of suing people like Percy Schmeiser. You know, when your pollen and your seed goes onto the next door neighbour's farm, and they're supposed to be non-GM, and they're stuffed. You know, farmers in Australia have been absolutely stuffed. Their whole season's income gone because they've been contaminated. Especially with canola, that's just so easily pollen and seeds so easily spread.
Yeah.
So and also I mean, you know this anyway, but I'm going to say it. When I worked for Crop and Food, I'd worked there for 8 years, right? And I was doing GE work on onions. I actually set up the GE onion program. Interrupt me if you want to say something, by the way, you guys.
I was looking at the next submission, but haven't quite. The bits you're saying is still quite interesting.
I want to hear about the onions.
Okay, so I kind of got the technique going just because I just had some ideas that were a little bit out of the box, and I thought to myself, why am I doing this? There's really good varieties of onions. There's really good onion breeders. There's really good onion growers in New Zealand. We actually don't need anything. What am I going to do? The only things that they were suggesting that you put into plants at that stage when I was there were two things. One was Roundup resistance or Roundup tolerance, and the other one was the BT gene, which basically gets plants to produce their own insecticide, a bacterial toxin.
Yep.
And they kept saying to us, we had the guy from Monsanto visiting Crop and Food, he was a regular, and they kept saying to us that Roundup is really great because it breaks down really quickly, it's really harmless, it's not toxic at all.
Oh boy, man, did that prove to be wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's in a carcinogen bracket, and now there's people suing Bayer Monsanto for all the damage done for their non-Hodgkin's lymphomas and everything else that they've had to suffer from. So we just were fed that, and then we were fed the myth that the BT toxin, when you engineer that into a plant, it's harmless. Well, what does it do? It destroys the gut. It basically kills the insect. The gut basically explodes. And what does it do to our gut when we're eating it, in crops? It doesn't make sense. Yeah. The logic that they used was that organic farmers sprayed BT spray on occasionally. They would spray it on occasionally and they'd leave a withholding period so it would break down, which it did do in the sun. But that was an occasional spray. Here, when you engineer crops, you engineer them to produce the BT toxin 24/7, really high rates of toxin production, no let up. Yeah. So it's completely different. So I'll let someone else talk now.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Guide, the Order Paper Podcast. YouTube, Twitch, Instagram.